Will Byers just revealed supernatural abilities that rival 11's powers, and because fans are calling this a last-minute addition, they're missing the fact that the Duffer Brothers have been planting clues since the very first episode. Every season contained breadcrumbs leading to this moment, but what most viewers didn't realize is that Will's journey from victim to vessel to hero has been the most carefully constructed character arc in the entire series. We're about to trace every hint and piece of foreshadowing that proves Will's powers weren't a surprise twist. They were an inevitable revelation years in the making. The very first hint about Will's special nature appears in the opening moments of Stranger Things. When we see the Demogorgon attack Hawkins' lab, it's absolutely brutal. Scientists are torn apart, security guards massacred, blood painting the walls in pure carnage. The creature shows no mercy and no interest in keeping anyone alive. But when that same Demogorgon chases Will through the woods and corners him in his family's shed, something completely different happens. Instead of instant death, Will simply vanishes. This felt like plot convenience at the time, but knowing what we know now about Vecna's deliberate targeting, this moment takes on entirely new meaning. The Demogorgon didn't kill Will because it wasn't supposed to. Vecna had already chosen his first human experiment, and Will's survival wasn't luck, it was selection. When Joyce and Hopper finally locate Will in the Season 1 finale, they find him pinned to the wall with an organic tube down his throat, pumping him full of upside-down fluid. Most viewers focused on the horror rather than questioning the mechanics. We now understand that Vecna was connecting him to the Hive Mind through Mind Flayer particles. This process required Will alive and conscious, creating a permanent psychic link between Will and the Upside Down's neural network. The organic tube wasn't just keeping him alive, it was fundamentally altering his biology in ways that wouldn't become apparent for years. The Season 1 epilogue contains perhaps the most overlooked hint. When Will coughs up that tadpole-like creature in the bathroom, his vision flickers, and he sees the upside-down version of the room. Dark, decaying, covered in floating particles. Most viewers interpreted this as leftover trauma. However, this moment represents Will's first conscious access to his Hive Mind connection, because he could briefly see into the Upside Down while remained in the real world. Will's consciousness could navigate between dimensions in ways no other character had demonstrated. This ability manifesting so quickly suggests Vecna's experiment had already fundamentally changed Will's perceptual capabilities. Season 2 elevated these hints into something impossible to miss. Dr. Owens and the Hawkins lab team used Will as a living radar, having him guide soldiers through the tunnel network, based on what he could see through his Hive Mind connection. This wasn't just memory. He was actively accessing real-time information from the Upside Down's neural network. These now memories perfectly mirror how Will uses his powers in Season 5. Since he could see what the Mind Flayer saw, feel when the tunnels were being burned, and experience the Hive Mind's pain as his own, he was unconsciously tapping into the same abilities he would later use to control Demogorgons. In Season 2, the Mind Flayer used the connection to spy on Will. In Season 5, Will reversed that flow. The Season 2 possession storyline contains multiple hints about Will's latent power. When Will's voice alternated between his own and the Mind Flayer's, when he could feel every attack on the Hive Mind as physical pain, when his consciousness merged with the Shadow Monster's awareness. The show demonstrated that Will's mind could interface with the Upside-Down entities on a level no other human had achieved. Will retained his sense of self even while possessed, suggesting his consciousness was strong enough to maintain its identity while connected to an alien intelligence. Therefore, when he learned to control that connection rather than being controlled by it, he was accessing abilities dormant since his first exposure to Mind Flayer particles. This possession wasn't just trauma, it was training. Season 3's approach to Will's abilities was more subtle, but equally revealing. Because the Mind Flayer was no longer directly possessing him, Will's connection manifested as his spidey sense. Every time something supernatural happened in Hawkins, Will would grab his neck and announce he could feel it. This demonstrated that Will's consciousness remained permanently linked to the Upside Down's activities. The neck-grabbing moments weren't just sensing danger. They were Will unconsciously accessing the Hive Mind to monitor upside-down activity in real time. Since his connection was proximity-based, getting stronger when supernatural events happened nearby, these moments proved Will's abilities were always active, operating below conscious awareness. Detecting Mind Flayer activity before anyone else could see it meant his consciousness was constantly interfaced with the Upside Down's neural network. Season 4 seemed to downplay Will's supernatural elements, focusing on his personal relationships and sexuality. But the season's final moments contained a crucial hint most fans interpreted incorrectly. When the Upside Down began bleeding into Hawkins and black snow started falling, Will's immediate awareness of Vecna's presence felt like his familiar early warning system. However, this demonstrated that Will's connection to Vecna specifically had grown stronger and more precise than his general Hive Mind awareness. Will could sense Vecna's emotional state, feel his satisfaction at opening the gates, and understand his plans without any direct communication. This proved their psychic link had evolved far beyond the simple connection established in Season 1. Because Will could access Vecna's perspective so clearly, the groundwork was already laid for him to eventually access Vecna's abilities as well. If you're fascinated by these hidden connections and want to dive deeper into Stranger Things' most carefully planned storylines, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're uncovering secrets the Duffer Brothers have been hiding in plain sight for years. The Season 5 opening sequence finally revealed the most important hint hidden since the beginning. When we see Vecna deliberately choosing Will, personally overseeing his capture, and carefully monitoring the process of pumping Mind Flayer particles into his system, it becomes clear that nothing about Will's supernatural experience was accidental. Vecna's dialogue reveals he saw Will as the perfect candidate for his first human experiment. Since he specifically chose a sensitive, artistic boy who felt like an outsider, Vecna was looking for someone whose consciousness could be reshaped. Vecna calling Will perfect suggests Will possessed some innate quality that made him more suitable for Hive Mind integration than other potential victims. This revelation transforms our understanding of every hint that came before. Will's survival, his visions, his possession, and his ongoing connection to the Upside Down were all part of Vecna's long-term plan to create a human vessel capable of bridging dimensions. Will wasn't a random victim who got lucky. He was specifically selected and prepared for a role Vecna had been planning since the beginning. The mechanics of Will's powers provide the final piece of the puzzle. His abilities operate through his Hive Mind connection rather than being independent psychic powers, making every hint throughout the series make perfect sense in retrospect. Will doesn't have telekinetic abilities like Eleven. Instead, he can access and control the Mind Flayer's power through the neural network Vecna established in Season 1. This explains why Will's abilities are proximity-based, growing stronger near upside-down activity and going dormant when far from supernatural events. His powers depend on his Hive Mind connection, which operates like a psychic network with varying signal strength. Will's abilities fluctuate based on how close he is to other nodes in the network, particularly Vecna himself. The emotional trigger that unlocked Will's conscious control also connects to earlier seasons. Robin's speech about accepting yourself and finding happiness within yourself directly addressed Will's lifelong struggle with feeling like an outsider, providing the psychological breakthrough Will needed to embrace his connection rather than fear it. Throughout the series, Will's supernatural experiences had been traumatic and involuntary, making him feel like a victim. When Will finally accepted himself fully, his sexuality, his sensitivity, his differences, he also accepted the part of himself connected to the Upside Down since Season 1. Therefore, his powers didn't suddenly appear in Season 5. They had always been there, waiting for Will to stop fighting and start using them intentionally. The emotional acceptance Robin encouraged unlocked abilities Will had possessed for years. The visual cues accompanying Will's power usage also connect to earlier seasons. His eyes turn white and he gets nosebleeds, just like other characters who use supernatural abilities, confirming that Will's powers operate through the same mechanisms that drive all psychic phenomena in Stranger Things. The white eyes specifically mirror what we see when Vecna uses his abilities, reinforcing their connection and suggesting Will is accessing the same fundamental force. Will can kill Demogorgons using Vecna's signature limb-snapping technique, proving he's not just sensing the Hive Mind, he's actively controlling it with the same precision and power Vecna possesses. Since Will can freeze Demogorgons in mid-air, manipulate their movements, and destroy them using pure psychic force, his abilities represent complete mastery of the connection established in Season 1 and developed throughout every subsequent season. Looking back at the entire series with this knowledge, every supernatural moment involving Will takes on new significance. The Duffer Brothers planted these hints so carefully that rewatching earlier seasons reveals a completely different story. Will wasn't just an unlucky kid caught up in supernatural events. He was the chosen vessel for Vecna's most ambitious experiment. And every trauma he endured was preparation for the moment he would turn that connection into a weapon. The irony of Vecna's plan is that by choosing Will because he seemed weak and malleable, Vecna actually selected someone whose sensitivity and emotional intelligence would allow him to master the Hive Mind connection more completely than anticipated. Will's outsider status taught him empathy and resilience, and his artistic nature gave him the imagination to see possibilities others missed, making him the perfect candidate to eventually challenge Vecna's control over the very network Vecna used to torment him. The progression from victim to vessel to hero represents one of television's most carefully constructed character arcs. Every hint was planted with such precision that Will's emergence as a powerful psychic warrior feels both surprising and inevitable. The boy who started as the helpless victim of supernatural forces has become someone capable of wielding those same forces against their original master, creating poetic justice that transforms Will from Vecna's greatest success into his most dangerous enemy. As we move forward in Season 5, understanding these hints help us appreciate not just how Will's powers work, but why his character was always destined to play this crucial role in the final battle. The Duffer Brothers spend 4 seasons establishing Will's connection to the Upside Down, while disguising it as trauma and victimization, making his transformation into a hero feel earned rather than convenient, powerful rather than arbitrary. The hints were always there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for viewers to understand that Will Byers was never just another kid caught up in supernatural chaos. He was always the key to ending it. If you want to discover more hidden connections and carefully planted clues the Duffer Brothers have been weaving throughout Stranger Things, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, and let me know in the comments which hint you found most surprising now that you know what to look for. The final battle is coming, and Will Byers is finally ready to fight back with powers that have been years in the making.